Good evening to the public at home and councillors and administrative team. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of council for January 19th, 2022, and we're starting at 6:01 p.m. At this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda, and I'm asking councillors if there's any emergent items that you would like to bring forward tonight and add to the agenda. Seeing and hearing none, I'll move on to administration. Anything from administration?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So at this time, we're looking for a motion to confirm the agenda as presented. Councillor Langmaid.
I move that council adopt the January 19th, 2022 regular council meeting agenda as presented.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. I'll call the question. All in favor? And the motion is carried. We have no presentations or recognitions tonight, nor do we have any delegations. There's no consent agenda, and that brings us to item 6.1, the confirmation of the January 12th, 2022 regular council meeting minutes. Councillor Peterson. You'll make that motion?
I will, Your Worship. I would move that council adopt the January 12th, 2022 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We have no tabled items in item 7. And that brings us to item 8, items and or reports from administration. 8.1, waive transfer to tax fee 2022.
Your Worship and Council, we ask that you authorize administration to waive the transfer to tax fee in the amount of $54.62 for the balance of 2022 on past due utility accounts. We've given you the information. Do you have any questions on the waiver of fees?
Lisa, would you mind, just for the public at home, would you mind just encapsulating why it is that council might be doing this action tonight?
Sure. So what we want to do is we want to waive the fee from the transfer to tax fee and not disconnect anybody's water during the pandemic. It's for COVID, it's for health. We really shouldn't be turning off people's water right now. So, and when we do that, we don't want to transfer it to taxes and have them incur an additional fee. So we'd like to waive that fee.
Thank you. At this time, I'll just ask council, do any of the councillors have any questions for Lisa in our finance department? Councillor Mitzner.
So it continues to be transferred to taxes. There just isn't a fee?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitzner. Any other questions? Seeing or hearing none, then I'd be entertaining a motion for this one. Looking for Mark. Councillor Wiley.
I move the council authorize administration to waive the transfer to tax fee in the amount of $54.62 for the balance of 2022 on past due utility accounts.
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Did you want to speak to that motion at all, or do any of the councillors want to have any comments? No. Okay, seeing and hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wiley. That brings us to 8.2, Council Code of Conduct Bylaw Review, which is on page 11. And Jonathan, you're speaking to this one?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship and Council. So I'll be reviewing the Council's Code of Conduct Bylaw and some of the relevant legislation that informs the Code of Conduct Bylaw. Excuse me. So just a bit of history. In 2017, the province amended the Municipal Government Act to include a section that states that a council must, by bylaw, establish a code to govern all councillors equally, and this bylaw must be reviewed and updated at least once every 4 years. Our Code of Conduct Bylaw was given third and final reading June 5th, 2019, so it's a couple years old. An important point that I would want to highlight too is the MJ states that we have to review our code of conduct within 90 days of the swearing in of office, of council being sworn into office. However, I want to just add here that we did cover a lot of this bylaw when we had our legal orientation back on November 1st, 2021. So I'm just going to give kind of go over the highlights of the bylaw and the legislation as well. So most of this bylaw is prescribed by provincial legislation. The Code of Conduct for Elected Officials regulation lays out the topics that need to be included in the bylaw. The topics include representing the municipality, communicating on behalf of the municipality. And so this is actually one of the sections that we want to have a fuller, more robust conversation about as well. Currently, our bylaw states, unless council directs otherwise, the mayor is council's official spokesperson. And in the absence of the mayor, it is the deputy mayor or a representative appointed by council. Administration is recommending that council consider amending this section to allow the mayor to delegate this responsibility if the mayor and deputy mayor are unavailable. We just believe that this would streamline the process and ensure that a spokesperson is selected in a timely manner. The third topic is respecting the decision-making process. Then there's adherence to policies, procedures, and bylaws, respectful interactions with councillors, staff, and public, and others. Topic 6 is confidential information. Topic 7 is conflicts of interest. Topic 8 is improper use of influence. Topic 9 is use of municipal assets and services. And topic 10 is orientation and other training attendance. In the regulation, you'll also find sections related to potential sanctions that can be levied against a councillor who is in contravention of the bylaw. And a requirement that potential sanctions do not prevent a councillor from fulfilling their duties. Pursuant to the regulation, we must also include a section for the complaint system. And so you'll find our complaints system in section 14 of our current bylaw. And it lays out the complaint process. So complaints may be made by any person or member who has identified or witnessed conduct by a member that is reasonably believed to be in contravention of the council code of conduct. All complaints shall be made in writing, dated, and signed and addressed to the investigator. The complaint must include the grounds for the allegation and description of the facts. The members alleged to contravene the bylaw will be given a copy of the complaint submitted to the investigator. And once the complaint is received, the investigator will decide whether or not to proceed. If the investigator decides to investigate the complaint, the investigator may seek legal advice, and all proceedings of the investigation will be kept strictly confidential. And if an investigator has been appointed, the investigator will update council on the result of the investigation. And then also a member who is the subject of this investigation would be granted an opportunity to respond to the allegations before council decides to sanction them or not. And that member is entitled to legal representation. So that's how our complaint process is laid out in our bylaw. Again, most of this bylaw is prescribed by our legislation. Topics that are included in the bylaw have to be included as per the regulation. But there are some things that we can discuss more fully and more robust manner, such as the complaint process. Like I said, item 5.2 in the bylaw. So with that being said, I'd be happy to open up to any questions regarding the bylaw. Right now, administration is recommending that council refer this item to a future committee of the whole meeting for that fuller, more robust conversation.
Thank you. CAO Scoble, did you want to add, I think you and I had a quick discussion of this. Did you want to add any comments as far as the code of conduct and the section that we possibly would be bringing to us?
Thank you, Your Worship. Basically, Jonathan has covered it, but really, again, the purpose of referring this to the committee of the whole is to have a very fulsome discussion wherever council wants to go. That discussion is not constrained to section 5.2. If there's other things that council wishes to take a look at and discuss revising, that's entirely there. So it's really, I think the main comment is that the committee of the whole, with the structure of that, it's a wide open discussion, and council members shouldn't feel constrained. Anything on there is open for discussion during that meeting.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Jonathan or CAO Scoble to start with? Councillor Peterson, question?
No, I have no questions, Your Worship. I just have a motion.
Okay, let's just see, counselors, any of the counselors at home, do you have any questions for Jonathan or CAO Scoble? Seeing none, then I'll go to Councillor Peterson for your motion.
Your worship, I would move that council direct administration to update section 5.2 of the council code of conduct bylaw number 19-08 and bring the bylaw to a future committee of the whole meeting for review.
Thank you. And now that we have a motion on the floor, I'm just wondering if any of the councillors have any comments they'd like to make concerning that motion before we put it to a vote. Councillor Wiley?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I find this as a priority that needs to be discussed in a committee of the whole. So for me personally, it's not something I need to revisit. I've read the bylaw now twice and it seems pretty straightforward. So as a new councillor, I don't particularly need to see it, but if the rest of council feels that that's in their interest, then I'm.
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Any other comments? Councillor Wegener?
Again, personally myself, I think it's probably not a bad idea that we discuss it at a meeting. I've seen how these complaint processes work with some of the committees, and I truly believe that it would be good to review at a committee of the whole meeting for myself.
Thank you. Any other comments from councillors? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion presented by Councillor Peterson? And that motion is carried. Thank you, Council. That brings us to item 9, committee reports. Are there any committee reports tonight from councillors? Seeing and hearing none. We move on to, there are no items directly related to council. We have no bylaws for discussion tonight. We have no urgent business tonight. Item 13, questions between councillors and council statements. I have one for possibly Councillor Peterson and Councillor Wegener. One of the things I noticed when I got to sit in on a couple of Wheatland Housing Management Board meetings, as well as those public engagement sessions for the potential new lodge, was the amount of interest. I could not believe the amount of interest and the comments from people. They really took part in the surveys. So my question to you is just a quick one. I'm wondering if the Wheatland Housing Management Board, and maybe the question is more like this, would you consider bringing to the Wheatland Housing Management Board a question as to whether or not they'd be interested in possibly recording some of the public portions of your board meetings, maybe to put on YouTube for later? I know it might be difficult where you have your meetings now in the basement of the Seniors Lodge to actually do a live broadcast on YouTube. But I'm wondering if I could ask you to see if your board might be interested in recording your meetings for later broadcast or later viewing. Councillor Wegener?
Your worship, I can present that to our CAO and the rest of the board to see if it is something that is possible. Currently, our general committee meetings are held in the basement of the Wild Rose Futures.
Community Futures. Yeah.
And I'm not sure what their like the technical capability is down there, but it is something that I can send off an email to the committee tonight, and hopefully have an answer in the next couple of days.
Sure, thanks. And it may be nothing more than just a video recording that I don't know how you put it on YouTube. I don't have the technical expertise for that, but it might be good. Might be something for you guys to consider anyway. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that you bring up something that shows that reflects a great deal of interest that the community is expressing. And I think that Wheatland Housing would be really interested in hearing about this. And I'm wondering if you would consider asking for a motion for Councillor Wegener to bring this forward to an agenda of Wheatland Housing, so that it's really formalized, so that they understand that this this is coming from our council, that's something that we are asking for because our citizens are really interested.
Yeah, as long as you folks wouldn't, don't feel that it'd be too heavy-handed as far as council trying to dictate to them or anything. Mine is simply just a question as to whether or not your board would consider it.
And it's been discussed, and I think they would feel okay. I don't know, Richard's got great perceptive abilities on the committees that we sit on, and I'd like to hear his perception, but I think they'd be very open to at least reflecting on a motion from this council. I think it would be really useful. Thank you.
Okay, would either of you be interested or willing to make a motion?
Sure.
Are you asking to add a motion to our agenda for tonight?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Well, I guess I can just, since it is something that's being added to the agenda, then I would just leave it as a question to you folks, and if you want to consider it. Councillor Peterson?
A question to Jonathan. There's nothing wrong with making a motion, correct? In a meeting? That would be, I don't seem to be really restrictive if we couldn't do that.
No, this is under section 13, the questions between councillors and council statements. This was added 13.1 by the mayor in response to his presentation. I don't think there's anything wrong with making a motion.
Sorry, Jonathan, I missed the tail end of that.
You can make a motion.
Okay,
Your
thank you.
worship.
Okay. Councillor Wagoner?
I just put my hand down, but I can just trying to think how to make a motion, what the motion should sound like. But I make a motion that myself, I will contact the Wheatland Housing Management Body to see if they have any issues or concerns about putting their our meetings on video streaming.
And if you could add that we could put it on our next agenda, on the next Wheatland Housing Management Board agenda.
And put it on our next agenda at the Wheatland Housing Management Body.
Thanks, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan, are you able to get that information? Does that make sense to you as far as a motion?
Your worship, council, I apologize. I missed a part of that. Councillor Wagner, would you mind repeating?
I don't know if I can, but I'll try. I make a motion that I contact the Wheatland Housing Management Body to see if to put on our agenda for our next meeting the possibility of live streaming our board meetings for the public.
Thank you, Councillor Wagoner. Does that make sense, Jonathan?
Yes, thank you, your worship.
Okay, thank you. So we have that motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Wiley?
I'm not going to be voting in favor of that motion, not because I disagree with the idea, but I'm not sure how I feel about our council asking another committee to do something like this, especially without me having any opportunity to review it or think about it. So I'm just not going to vote in favor of it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wiley. Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that we're not, we have no capacity as a council to direct. What we're asking Wheatland Housing Management Body to do is to consider it. And this is something that they've already considered. They've just never formally considered it. So it's a kind way to ask them. And the reasoning that Councillor Wagner will give is what you've presented, is that there is just extraordinary interest in the work of the Wheatland Housing Management Body Board at this time. And I think it'll become a reality regardless, but having us bring that forward, from my perspective at least, is a compliment to the board, to Wheatland Housing Management Body, where I've sat for 8+ years. And so I'll vote in favor of it. I think they won't feel compelled one way or the other. They'll just see it as an opportunity to discuss it, think about it, and figure out how to respond to it. And like you said, we've already sort of moved into that realm by live streaming all of our consultation processes. And so it's just one way to keep everybody on the same page so that they could just watch. But I respect Councillor Wiley's concerns as well.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. This might be a bit of a surprise to you folks, but I was kind of more leaning towards just an informal question for you as far as bringing it. And I don't want the housing board to feel like I'm leaning on them in even an informal way. So I probably won't vote for this motion, but I am interested in hopefully having those videos either be put on YouTube or streamed live if it's possible. But I'm just not comfortable making it more of a formal motion. Any other comments from our councillors? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And opposed? And so it's defeated. I think we have a 3-3 tie. So if, I hope no one's upset by this. I think if we can just leave it as a question to you two on the board, if you wouldn't mind bringing it up just for them to think about, and we'll leave it really informal. I don't know if we made sense there, but
Nope.
You didn't make sense at all?
You made no sense at all.
Okay.
But that's okay.
Not the first time I've been told. Councillor Wegener, did you have a comment to wrap up there? Nope.
Yeah. So I guess I'm a little confused. So informally, do you want me to contact the Wheatland Management Housing Board or talk to them about live streaming our meeting?
I guess I wanted to get away from any kind of language or direction where we're saying to them, hey, and the fact that we're saying what, the fact that it was becoming a motion kind of made it a little more formal to me. And I didn't want to be leaning on them in any way. I guess I'm just wondering if you'd keep it informally, if you folks are okay with just asking what they think of it. That's kind of the way I'd like to just leave it.
I can do that. Most definitely I can do that in an informal or an informal manner. As Denise mentioned, it is something that has been discussed in the past, and we do our building committee meetings when we bring the architect in on Zoom. So I don't think it's going to be a big thing. So informally, I will ask, and I will keep your name out of it, Your Worship.
Yeah, don't mention the mayor's name. All right, thank you. Any other questions between councillors or comments, council statements? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Your Worship, sorry, just with regards to this, I just want to say that the reason that I made it a motion, it's just that, whenever a committee member gets direction from a council, even if it's just a request, I think that there's some wisdom in doing it through the direction of council so that they know it's not just coming from one person. And, and it didn't come as an order or a demand. It came as a simple request. And I don't mind that you voted it down and the end will be the same. But, in this public meeting, for the sake of this public meeting, I think that it's good practice that when requests come forward from council that we act, through the direction of the council, and that there is a formality in that. And so that's why I am justifying, the motion behind it. But it is something that when we talk about procedural bylaw in the future, is something that we probably should discuss, because I'm sure people watching this are confused.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I see your point of view on this as well. I can see both sides of it, and it hopefully everything will go well with this anyway. There's nothing else then? I don't believe we have any administrative inquiries. So then we're looking at a motion to go in camera. Councillor Peterson, your little hand is still up.
I move to go in camera, Your Worship.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. We have a motion to go in camera at 6:26. All in favor? And we're going in